Hello, everybody from around the world. This is Samson Li coming to you from Los Angeles, California. Welcome to today's Wellness Wednesday. Hello, everybody. Today we have a very, very special guest. And this young lady I've known a short time, but amazing, very impressive. And she's a lot of heart. But what's even more impressive is her background. Today we have a very special guest. Dr. Linda McCormick. Linda has 25 years experience in the pharmaceutical industry and more recently served as a senior director of global medical affairs for a large international pharmaceutical company. And she has published numerous publications, and she's received awards in her research in drug development, especially relating to cardiovascular and kidney disease. So today, welcome, Linda. How are you?
Thanks so much. Good. Doing great. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Thank you for taking the time to be on this Wellness Wednesday. Today it's going to be very special. We're going to leverage your brain, your all your years of study, experience, practice, research in what we're going to talk about today about epigenetics. It's going to be amazing.
That's great. Yeah, I actually, this kind of stuff just really gets me going. I love it. I mean, science is what gets, just gets me excited. So, when, I was asked to talk about something, this is right up my alley. So I love talking about genetics and especially epigenetics, believe it or not. So
well, epigenetics, I mean, it hasn't been around that long, has it?
Really, I mean, the study of it has been around. We knew about it. It wasn't really called that, probably in the 80s, as early as the 80s. But, it really wasn't coined as a term and as a real study until quite recently. So, yeah, but it's fascinating, and it's really, it's kind of funny because we've all grown up knowing what DNA is, right? It's in my DNA, that's your code, right? And the DNA is the blueprint. We've all heard that. It's the blueprint. It tells the cell what proteins to make, depending on, what your body needs. And so, and that doesn't really change unless you have a severe mutation. Maybe you were born with a genetic disorder or a mutation does occur. But what's epigenetics? What does that mean? And that's really the study of how your behaviors and the environment kind of affect how the genes work. So the genes themselves don't really change, but what they do, how they work is what changes. And that's what we can really affect. It's reversible. So we can really affect that. Epigenetics kind of sits above the genetics, And so that's what's really exciting. And there's been a lot of research that shows that the phytonutrients can really affect how genes work and how they express the need and the blueprint for developing proteins. So
that's very exciting. And so that means that now you just said something that's very interesting. A lot of people, they don't understand what you just said. The epigenetic is above the genetics.
Yeah, it is.
So, like I grew up in that time, and like you mentioned before, where around the year 2000. Once I was already out of school working, but I keep track of all the science stuff, and I love it too. And they say, oh, they just mapped the human genome. Wow, that's amazing. And they say, oh, the DNA is your body's blueprint. That's how you're gonna be. And I thought in my mind, wow, so that means my genetic is set already. There's nothing I can do about it if But then you just said it's different with epigenetic. It sits above the genetics, and then I've heard, the funniest analogy is, we're just couple of thousand genes away from worms. So,
when you look at what's really the basics of DNA, there's really like just a few compounds. It's just the way that makes up DNA. You got some sugar and you got a phosphate and a bunch of nucleotides, actually only 4 nucleotides, and they're just arranged differently. And it's amazing how they can make a different species, a different human with the way they're arranged. I have an identical twin sister. right? And so you would think that our DNA is exactly the same, right? We had one egg that split. We should be the exact same DNA, but we're not, because things do change and things do get rearranged and everything. But once you're born, that's your DNA. And that DNA is almost like a ladder. It's a ladder that's connected by these posts, right? These rungs in a post, and then it's twisted, right? And so that's where you get that double helix. That's your main coded DNA. And that's what we're born with. And it's funny because, my sister is, was it environment or it's really, when you look at the way we were born and how things we were interested in, I was more sports oriented and more science. And she's very art and creative and all of that. But we're kind of alike too. If you met us, you would see we have a lot of the same mannerisms and everything, even though we don't live near each other anymore. It's just fascinating. But yeah, you're right. That blueprint, it is what you were born with, but it's the epigenetics. And what that is when I mean that when it sits above the DNA, your DNA has ways of being different besides just those basic 4 nucleotides, the sugar and the phosphate. It's got these chemical structures that are sticking off of it. So it almost looks like, I don't know, hairs or something, like little chemicals that are sticking off of it. And that's what we can really change, right? And that's what can cause certain genes to be turned on and certain genes to be turned off. If we can add chemical compounds to those genes, like a methyl group, which is just, it's a certain combination of compounds, but anything that can change that DNA can really change its function just by one little molecule, so.
Wow. So let's start to get into the weeds.
No, I'm sorry. Can't help it.
No, but that is science, right? I mean, and I'm so happy to be a part of 3 because we have amazing Dr. Dan Gubler, biochemist. He's done his research. He actually, when he was at Caltech, he was telling me he actually used biochemistry researching the DNA, the genes. So that's what he did at Caltech, and he also taught at Caltech. So, but and we're lucky to have you. You're a scientist, so many years in drug development, and and won so many awards and being published. That's amazing. So then this epigenetic things. I remember I've been in the supplement industry for about 15, 16 years, and the epigenetics came out for me about 14 years ago. 14 years ago, and they're talking about how the things we eat can influence, and our lifestyle can influence our gene expression, how our genes operate. But I still don't really have an idea, is it like good or bad, and what is good and what is bad. And I think the science is out there. Anybody want to Google, right? But for education purposes, I really haven't heard for example, any nutritionist talk about epigenetics, right? And because nutrition is it's all about what we consume, right? And then the environment we understand, right? Of course, for example, the more UV we're exposed to, the more our DNA gets damaged, and it affects how our gene expression is, how our cells try to protect itself automatically. So but from your perspective, being a scientist, epigenetics, like for me, when with Dr. Dan Gubler, when he announced the epigenetic study, I was like, I've never heard that before. So how long has that kind of study, and what do you really hope to find through these kind of studies?
Well, and experience. This is unprecedented to have a company, that supplements, that's making supplements actually do the epigenetic studies. This is really unheard of. And it really speaks to the faith and the credibility that we have in the products, right? Because, Dr. Dan has explored and is exploring to find new phytochemicals, to find the right phytochemicals, take those plants and everything, and curates those phytochemicals that he knows that will probably do the action that we want in the body, and then makes it absorbable. And that's just critical. And so, okay, we do all of that. And how do we know it's really working? Well, let's do the study. And so what kind of, that's pretty awesome that he, had just the confidence to say, we're going to do the study and we're going to show that we do affect, the regulation of certain genes in a positive way, and some of them that we want to downregulate or inhibit. And so it was, to me, when I saw that, I was just super impressed that we would, take the time and spend the money and everything it takes to do that kind of research. I've not seen it before. I know drug companies all the time are trying to find ways to turn genes on and off with pretty toxic chemicals, right? So, and so this is just, it's really, it's an amazing kind of, company to be involved with and to be associated with. And it really adds to the credibility and the validity of what we're doing. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, that's just it just blew my mind because, like I said, 15, 16 years in the supplement industry. I've heard of epigenetics maybe 13, 14 years ago. And all of a sudden, oh my gosh, this is the first time I've ever heard anybody doing epigenetic studies to see how how the products work, what is the efficacy, how does it influence our genes. That's amazing. So maybe we can just kind of glide through the
Sure.
study, and maybe you can give your opinion and your ideas about it, because for most of us, we're like, okay, these genes are good, this is what it does, so then what? So I'm trying to connect the dots between the science and the actual effect it has on cells, and then the potential effect on the body. And look, today it's all about education, so it's all about the science. So maybe I can just go ahead and share a few slides. So we did the epigenetic study last year. It's groundbreaking in my opinion. We did send it to a lab third party in New Zealand to do with other PhDs, and the summary of the study, and this is what I look at because I'm just a layperson, it just educates us. A gene can be thought of as a switch that turns on and off different processes in the body or in the cells too, right? So turning on and off genes support different health outcomes is known as epigenetics. Good lifestyle habits like nutrition, diet, and proper exercise can help maintain proper epigenetics. Poor diet, sedentary lifestyle, restless sleep, pollution, stress can cause genetic switches in the body to become, we lost the other one, to become dormant or go into maybe necessary bad health. Okay, so let's go to the next one. So Linda, look, you are the PhD here. When I look at the little NRF1 and NERF1, I'm like, okay, first of all, the letters are italicized, and I'm like, okay, what does it really mean? It must be something special. But obviously these are the list of genes that were tested with 4 of the 3 products, right? Maybe you can comment a little bit on each of these genes that you know of, and describe them a little bit for us.
I will. And the reason they use just the letters is because the names of these are really long and scientific. And for example, the NRF1, it's nuclear respiratory factor 1. And when you see it says assists in maintaining healthy energy levels and cellular health, that's very broad. That's a broad statement. But if you think about nuclear respiration, that's the title of that, right? NRF1, nuclear respiratory factor. What this really does, it maintains the health of the cells. So cells breathe. They have a respiration, just like we do, right? It starts at the cellular level. They are actually breathing. And so when we have a healthy level of NRF1 that is regulating the genes that are responsible for cellular respiration and cellular function, that's lending itself to cellular health. And when you have those healthy cells in the body, no matter where they are, they're functioning well, they're breathing well, right? Then they're going to be healthy. And I think NRF1 also it also supports the mitochondria. And you'll hear that term mitochondria all the time, when we talk about genes, because the mitochondria is super important inside the cell. And I don't know if you remember from biology, but there's all these little organelles, right? The ribosomes and the endoplasmic reticulum and all of these things, right? Well, the mitochondria is really the powerhouse. It's where energy is made. So you want healthy, really well-functioning mitochondria. And so that's where, when we see that, yeah, it maintains healthy energy, because that's what that's responsible for. So, and how does it do that? Right. So one of the things that what we know about NRF1 is it's responsible for regulating the production of something called heme. And what's heme? Heme is responsible for delivering oxygen to our tissues. So how do our tissues stay alive? They stay alive with oxygen. So if you've got a healthy level of NRF1 that is regulating the development of heme, which is making sure we have oxygen being delivered to the tissues, you're going to have healthy tissues and healthy cells and a healthy energy level, because your mitochondria will be working properly. So I hope that's not too in the weeds, but that's kind of what NRF1 means to me.
Wow. There you go. I just learned something. I hope all of you were taking notes there. I didn't realize that, because I know mitochondria converts glucose to ATP. So this little organelle in your cell makes more energy for the cell. And when your cells have energy, well, it's probably better, right? So that means what do you call it? What is modulate, up or down? How do you describe that?
Well, it's upregulated. That's the scientific way to say it. Upregulated. Increased.
Okay. Increase. So it's good to have an increase, right?
Yes.
So okay. Now maybe we can just briefly,
I'll tell you
briefly.
Okay. Yeah. NFKB is a bad guy. I mean, this is a pro-inflammatory molecule that it actually codes for. And so when it says supports healthy inflammatory status, deactivation is desirable, because normally NKFB is kind of expressing inflammation. So, and PPARA is, I think it's called protein peroxisome proliferator activated receptor, and then alpha. So, and that again is one of those energy producers, and it's everywhere in the body. And it's super important for energy production. And it's being studied actually now in just a lot of autoimmune diseases that it's responsible for, if it's dysregulated, if it's not upregulated, if it's not functioning properly. And so it's again can be inflammatory if it's not regulated correctly. So we want that to be upregulated so that it can really balance out the inflammation and everything in the system. So, and then the SOD1, that's a superoxide dismutase 1, and that's just gets rid of the waste of the cell. So the cell, when it does its functioning and everything, it's got waste products, and you got to get rid of them, or else your cells will be clogged up. And there are folks that do have issues with this. So we want that to be upregulated, right? And then SIRT1 is sirtuin-1. Again, energy production. This one we've seen that it's important in brain health. So this is important, I think, in learning and memory, neuronal plasticity. So how flexible our brains are, so to speak. So this is a really good brain health one too.
For that one, I've heard sirtuin-1, I guess that's one of many, right? But I heard that set of genes are called the anti-aging gene, right? It controls aging. Is that right?
That's exactly right. This one is it's an important one for healthy aging, and for maintaining that healthy brain, for learning and memory especially. Yeah. And you know what else it does? There's another fun thing that it does. It actually takes care of that bad guy, the NFKB that we talked about before. So it can actually decrease levels of NFKB. So
nice.
it's an important one.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the GLP-1, that's glucagon-like peptide 1. You've heard of this lately, I'm sure, because this is the GLP-1 inhibitors out there, very popular weight loss drugs that are out right now. They affect that. And so again, that GLP-1, it does help support healthy blood sugar and blood insulin. So it's really important in diabetes, right, to have a good level of that, because it really helps the body control insulin. So really get insulin secreted from the pancreas to take care of glucose that's in the body. So that's a really important. It's also been shown to be a satiety protein that one codes for. So that means it makes us feel full. So that one. And then the next one, BDNF, that's another brain one. That's brain-derived growth factor. So again, important for learning and memory. And IL-6, that's interleukin-6. That's another pro-inflammatory. You see that in a lot of chronic inflammation and even acute inflammation. So you'll see that elevated in those conditions. And it's even elevated in COVID patients. So it's one that we want to go down. We want it to be down-regulated or decreased. Yeah.
Nice. So some of these we want to regulate up, some of them want to regulate down. And it's not like just eating a banana or something, is it? That we can do that, right?
No, it's not.
Okay. So like one thing I was very impressed with and actually blown away was the absorption study that we had. And everybody knows, you are what you eat, but then the next step is actually you are what you absorb, which makes sense, which makes a lot of sense. So, I know the test that Dr. Dan had done with the product, he mentioned that it's the same level as the same kind of test as used to test the absorption in pharmaceutical
that's right.
products, right?
And it's pretty amazing because absorption is, when I first came to the company and I saw the 3 pillars, absorption at first, that was the one that I really was most important to me, right? Now I really appreciate exploration and curation as well, but man, absorption, you can just have the best plants and the best, phytochemicals, but if they don't get in your body and in your cells, what good is it, right? And I know in drug development, man, you could spend so much money and get a drug all the way and finally study it into rats or humans, and you find out it just is not bioavailable. It just won't get in the cells, and we have to go back to the drawing board. It's happened many, many times. And so the absorption is so important. We have an entire department devoted to absorption.
Wow.
So it's pretty critical, and it's exciting when I just love that Dr. Dan calls himself an absorption scientist. So yeah.
I'm sure you grilled him on that before, right? Well, when we were in St. Louis, there was actually, I think, a couple of people who are also biochemists. And they have their PhD, and I think Dr. Dan, in the regionals, he was very impressive in St. Louis. I mean, just to communicate, what the difference is and the specific of why absorption, and how the epigenetic works, and it was amazing. I mean, there was, I think, out of maybe 100 people, 120 there, I think we had probably a 30, maybe 20-something, 30 doctors there. So and a couple of scientists. So it was very interesting. Now, in terms of the products, so we did the test on 4 products, and I always look at this graph, I say, it's very pretty, but what does it really say? Exactly. So like for me, look, Vitality, I always describe it as the foundation. It's the foundation to what we need to function, a foundation to health, because it contains the vitamins, minerals, all natural that you can absorb easily at a very high level, as a matter of fact. At the same time, like Dr. Dan, he said, it has everything you need on a daily basis to function as a human being. I said, oh, that just blew my mind.
Yeah.
That just blew my mind. And now, but and look, the folks out there didn't know, but we were kind of chatting earlier in the day, and you were describing in terms of the testing you have seen outside of 3 in your career, where they try to, up and down, modulate up and down the genes and to get the desired effect. It's not even close to what we have, right? I mean, this is nuts, isn't it? I mean, is that would you say it similar to that?
Yeah, I mean, to get something that's 224% upregulated is amazing, right? And it's just, and if you look at some of the pharmaceutical research, you're really doing cartwheels if you have 10%. If you get in the double digits or 20%, you're just high-fiving each other, and we're just we're going to have a molecule, we're going to have a drug, and so what this does speak to the absorption, right? So if we can affect the genes like this, if we can positively upregulate those genes and then downregulate the negative genes, in other words, inhibit or turn those off, we know that those phytochemicals are getting absorbed. And so it just makes sense, though, doesn't it? Because if you've got these natural compounds that our scientist, Dr. Dan, and others have, really made sure that they get in the cell, because the cell doesn't just normally admit things, right? So it's got to have a certain shape, a certain charge, a certain size to get in the cell. And so, that's what's impressive to me, is that these phytochemicals obviously are getting in the cell, because they're getting these kinds of results when you're looking at the way that they're affecting the gene expression. So
it's very amazing. So now, from maybe you can help us summarize it, because I really don't know how to express how amazing the vitality this chart is. It looks pretty, but it has all those genes there. So in your expert way, maybe if you can put it in more layman terms, what is the science of vitality doing to our cells, to these genes? So if we can describe it, what does it really do with this graph here? What does it show?
So this graph to me shows that with Vitalite, it is getting into our cells, and it's doing what we want it to do. It's actually increasing or upregulating the positive genes, the genes that we want more of. We want more activity of these genes in our bodies. Just from what we just described, you could have a little cheat sheet of what each one of these does, right? But it's for energy, for cellular health, for brain health, and for anti-inflammation, or supporting inflammation, a balanced inflammatory process in the body. We know that in taking these, we're doing all of the right things, and just getting enormous amounts of these positive genes getting into the proteins that they're coding into our bodies. So
beautiful. Let's go on the next one. So the Revive, the Revive, obviously we know that has liposomal curcumin in it. I love it. My shoulders haven't felt this way in like 15 years. Okay, I can go play my volleyball again if I could only jump. So yeah. So what does this say? What does this graph say for the Revive?
Well, for Revive, what I'm most impressed with Revive, it's basically what I just said before. However, look at if you go back up to the previous slide, and you can see you have if you look at the NFKB and the IL-6, that's what we really want to focus on for Revive. And here you can see it's minus 172 and minus 112. But when you look at the Revive on the next one, it really takes care of inflammation even more. right? And that's what we want to do. And then we have the positive effects of the other ones as well. This is, who knew that Revive isn't just inflammatory support, is it? So it's all of these other things as well. So
the I see on the BDNF, that's the brain, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah. That's up 430%.
Yeah. So
Wow.
that's why this is really impressive, because it kind of dissects the product for us, doesn't it? So we can see just some of the other effects if you just kind of know what those genes do. Yeah.
Yeah. And the cheat sheet is in the study in the back office. Okay. So now we have the Eternal. Now, Eternal, for me, I've been, into anti-aging for a while. And I know that we have that 200 milligram resveratrol, has the liposomal collagen in there. Also has CoQ10 for the heart, right? And you're the expert on cardiovascular there. And glutathione. So does this surprise you of how this test result came out?
I know it's amazing that, again, we see a minus 345% for that bad NFKB. That's that pro-inflammatory, very negative. It's been associated with a lot of different diseases. And it's really about stress, and inflammation isn't just about joints, right? So diabetes is an inflammatory disease. High cholesterol, is an inflammatory disease. So that's why you're seeing this in the inflammation area. It's not, we always think about that. Is it, rheumatoid arthritis or arthritis, but it's not. Inflammation, we're finding, is part of stress. It's part of a lot of things. And so if we can really decrease that inflammation with turning off IL-6 and NFKB, we're in good shape for promoting a good, antioxidant health. So
when it says negative 1,250%.
Yeah, that's not just joint health. Then you're affecting the inflammation from other things as well. Yeah.
Wow. Love it. Okay. Now this one, the collagen.
Yeah.
The last product we did the testing on, last of 4. That I see that NFKB, as we kept looking at it, this one lowers 125%.
Yeah.
And EDNF, it's also, my gosh, it's good for the brain.
Yeah, I mean, right? Because, you can imagine, we know that the marine collagen, and anytime you have lipid, fatty acids, healthy fatty acids, which is what we have in the collagen, you're going to have positive effects on brain health and BDNF. So, yeah, these are good results too for collagen. There may be other genes that you could even study here that would get more at skin and those kinds of things that I don't think we looked at. But how cool that even collagen has that decrease in inflammation and such a positive increase in BDNF.
And what I know is we have collagen throughout our body, even in the brain, isn't it? It's like the little structures that keeps our cells together in a way, right? Isn't it?
Everything. Yeah, it's really the backbone, of everything, of all the cells. Yeah. So.
Wow, powerful. So now from your perspective, I mean, you've been in pharmaceutical industry for 25 years. And I mean, you got your PhD, you've done so many studies, and the research out there, what's happening out there. To summarize it, how do you feel about the 3 products? How do you feel like how it can impact our lives in the short term and long term? What do you just from your perspective as an expert?
Yeah, I think for me, I can, and I don't say this lightly, I can totally stand behind these products. And I think that's why you're seeing our scientific advisory board that's so excited and so on fire, right? If you're a healthcare professional, you want data, you want the science, and that's what we have here. It's unequivocal, and I'm impressed. Impressed isn't even the word; it's not strong enough. That we're doing this research, and that we're taking the time and spending the money or whatever it takes to get this research done. And I really feel like we're a scientific company, and that makes me feel good. It makes me feel like I can stand behind it, and I want everybody to have the products. I want my kids on it. I want my friends on it. I want I want everyone should really be benefiting from these products. And I think that's what it sort of speaks to, a bit of a higher purpose, just because if you're really into health and wellness and proactive wellness, you just can't help but want everyone to be on these products. And I think that helps when we go out there and we're promoting the products, just to know that you are backed by this. It's huge. And I've never had it before in any of the other companies we've been associated with. So it's so exciting.
Me the same. Actually, I've never had this kind of study, because it speaks to, when you talk about absorption, it speaks toward the efficacy of a product. Also, the epigenetic study speaks to the efficacy of the product. I mean, it's mind-blowing to me. And, and we're just starting. And I think we're blessed, like when we first came together, Kim, me, Lance, Tracy, and also with Mike, and you were just, we weren't sure what direction we look at. We when we were sitting around talk about what kind of product, we didn't understand, how amazing it could be, how forward-looking it can be, cutting edge it can be. I mean, when we met Dr. Dan, he's just like talking about a minute. He's a very happy, passionate scientist, just like you. He's like he's so excited, he's jumping off the wall, right? But we're lucky, I think, and when Daniel, allows him to, spread his stride, I guess, in a way, right, to go explore, right, and to really articulate curation, how it's put together. And then I'm talking about absorption. That's real science. It's just not sales talk. That's real science. And I think, one of the two strongest suits that we have, aside from leadership in 3, is the science. It is truly, it's the real deal. And, and we're lucky to have you to be with us to articulate it, because your experience, look, you're not a director of global affairs for no reason, I mean, in your stint in the pharmaceutical industry. So you have seen all kinds of research and the quality of the research, and also how the process of proving the product to be to have efficacy and bring it to market. You've seen that, and it's a lot of impact, a lot of endorsement from what you say in terms of everybody should be on it, right?
Absolutely, yeah, 100%. Yeah. And I love how Dr. Dan even said, he said, we want real ingredients. We don't want to put there's vendors that sell ingredients, right? And we're not going to put those. We're not doing that. We want to, this the way we're doing it here differentiates us from other companies by far. And that's really exciting to me, and something we can all just stand behind. So
yeah, and obviously, Dr. Dan, and of course, somebody like you can go toe to toe with any scientist to vet, a doctor to vet the product. So no problem here.
No problem.
Thank you, Linda. So for those of you out there, thank you for spending the time here. The last 40 minutes. I hope you have learned something amazing about the product, and thanks to Miss Linda, Dr. Linda McCormick, to have articulated for us to spread it out in a very easy to understand manner. And that's how this business should be. It should be easy to understand and to spread the message. And thank you so much, Linda. you know, we're on to do big things in 2024. I'm very excited. You know, last night Dr. Dan unveiled his video, right? The first of many, I'm sure, about exploration and how you say this is a scientific exploration company, and that's exciting. And I remember talking to Dr. Dan before we even opened the website, trying to put this idea together. It's just a brief Zoom call, and it's just simple as 1, 2, 3, right? Exploration, absorption, curation, and absorption, and that's the home run for 3 here in terms of the product and the science. So, well, looking forward to 2024 with all of you. We are doing the Blitz call. Many of you heard on the Empowerment Tuesday yesterday, and it's going to start tomorrow. So look for that blast. Okay, get as many people on it as you can to launch it off. We're going to have 3 a day for the next week and a half. Sunday, we're going to take it off. And then also, just in terms of a face-to-face meeting, Kim, Hui, me will be hopping over to Houston area, and also Dallas, and also Lehigh Valley in Pennsylvania. We look forward to seeing you. I know many of you are going to be driving in, and it is winter, so be safe, and look forward to next level. Let's all level up in 2024.
Thank you.
Linda. Thank you, Linda. Thank you so much. Have a good evening, good morning, good afternoon, everybody. Take care. Bye now. Bye-bye, everybody.